Before we unveil the 50, we want to invite anyone listening who's not subscribed to subscribe. We get hundreds of you watching every week. We know you love the show. Subscribe. Also, if you want all 136 teams with their S&D rating for all weeks 1 through 11, subscribe to our Patreon. Thank you to all of our Patreon subscribers. At number 50, S&D 50, week 11, we have New Mexico, new to the S&D 50.
Yeah, first time this season we've seen the Lobos crack it. That was a good win over UNLV.
Guys, Jason Eck, before the game, showed his team fight clips of like MMA and boxing scenes, like fights going on, and he told him he was showing them the clips because he says he wants to show them how you just got to keep getting off the mat when you get knocked down.
At number 49, Nebraska.
Dylan Raiola getting hurt, though, breaking his fibula. That's a bind for Matt Rule and the rest of the season. They could easily drop the last 3 games. The good news is they're already bowl eligible, but they could lose out.
At number 48, back in the S&D 50, Baylor crushes UCF.
Duh, Bears. Sorry, wrong sport. Or rather, wrong tier.
You know, Baylor, gosh, they've been hanging around in the S&D 50 as we see they're back, and they get a bye this week, and then they get Utah at home.
Whew.
And I think they could cause some troubles for Utah if Utah is not on their A game.
At number 47, back in the S&D 50, the Mississippi State Bulldogs. They're back. People don't like that very much.
No, people love making fun of the Bulldogs. And the fact of the matter is they have a good team. The SEC is a gauntlet. They've lost a lot of close games, but this is a good team. And the S&D was on to Mississippi State early, and we're seeing it now.
At number 46, Houston.
Yeah, Houston had 1 loss in league play. They had a clear path to the Big 12 title game that didn't even include, if I remember right, it did not include any of the big contenders. And now, I mean, almost certainly out of contention despite only 2 losses on the year.
At number 45, Kansas State, yo-yoing around, loses to Texas Tech big.
They lose big, but they only drop 1 spot. And this is one of those 5-loss teams in the S&D 50 that we talked about. And it's because despite getting blown out, they played really well, and they have been playing really well.
At number 44, SMU. What a win.
Guys, I love the ACC this year. It is so wide open. I love that SMU beat Miami. I love that SMU's right in the mix to win the ACC again. And they could be in the playoffs with 3 losses. Say they run the table.
That would be crazy. SMU, over the course of the season, has had a couple of really good wins in league play. They beat Miami, who's currently number 30 in the model, and they beat Clemson. Clemson is number 77 in the model. Outside of that, all of their other wins are rated lower than 77. So despite the fact that they've looked really good, they have 3 losses, 2 notable losses outside of league play against TCU, who's ranked 23rd this week, and Baylor, who we just saw at 48. And then their recent loss to Wake Forest. But that recent loss is what I want to talk about. For beating Miami, but not dominating Miami, SMU got 73.9 points added to their rating. Because of that bad loss to Wake Forest, followed up by Wake Forest getting completely demolished by an even lower rated Florida State team, SMU took an 88-point drop to their rating because that gap was so bad and that loss was so bad. It basically devalued SMU's loss even more, saying that loss is even worse. And so overall, they netted a loss of 15 points.
At number 43, this is where it gets very spicy, folks. Memphis at 43. The AP poll this week has Memphis at 22.
Why?
I love the S&D. because it gives respect to the G5 teams that deserve respect. But it's funny that the AP poll gives all the respect in the world to Memphis, but the SND has zero respect. Yeah, I mean, 43 is still adequate. You're a good team, but you're not top 20.
At number 42, Boise State, ahead of Memphis.
After a terrible loss to Fresno State. And Boise is reeling right now, guys. 3 losses in Boise is unacceptable. 7 points, the fewest point total in Mountain West play since they've joined the Mountain West.
At number 41, Kennesaw State.
I watched that game against UTEP. Kennesaw State looked good. I liked watching them play. They are fun.
Did you see that they got a 2 QB system going for them? And they've been doing that all year long.
It's crazy. I love it.
4 running backs have ran over 200 yards for them. They got 18 sacks on the season. Kennesaw State just is doing it as a team. There's really not any individual stars standing out, but boy, it's fun to see them just climbing the ranks every week.
At number 40, Tulane. They were the highest rated G5 team last week. I say it every week. The G5 is a dog-eat-dog world, and it happens again. At number 39, back in the S&D 50, East Carolina.
We teed this up last week. We talked about East Carolina and Hawaii fell out of the S&D 50 last week because they were on a bye and had been passed by teams who won. Both teams played. Hawaii, you're not seeing them here. They did not win. They got crushed. East Carolina, you see right back here jumping in, beating Temple, who was surging late. Not late in the game, but surging lately. East Carolina, one of several teams in the American with only 1 loss in league play. 6 teams in the American with 1 loss in league play.
At number 38, Duke, with a great win against Clemson. Duke had Dabo Sweeney screaming so loud you could hear him yelling at his defense from the press box TV broadcast.
Oh, how about his post-game comments where he's like, I could get fired. I don't know. He points at the athletic director at the back of the room. He's like, he's back here right now.
Another team that's still alive for a conference championship. Duke, your playoff hopes are not dead.
At number 37, LSU.
Brian Kelly-less.
This week they have Alabama. At number 36, yes, you're reading that right if you're on YouTube, San Diego State at 36.
Bringing the Mountain West home. This is the best team in the Mountain West, hands down. Their only loss is, honestly, in retrospect, a boggling loss against Washington State. So I really like the Aztecs right now to win the Mountain West.
And they've pitched 3 shutouts this year.
Whew. That is a lot.
At number 35, as you can see, we have rattled off a slew of G5 teams ahead of Memphis. 35, Navy takes their first loss against North Texas.
Horvath is a baller. I wouldn't rule Navy out of the American yet.
Love it. At number 34, another American team ahead of Memphis, South Florida. This week they have UTSA, guys. Oh boy.
Hey, question for you. Is that a road game?
It's at South Florida. At number 33, Florida gives Georgia a run for their money, only dropping a spot.
This is our highest rated team with a losing record. And it's because their wins include wins against Mississippi State, who we've already talked about, and Texas. And just wait until we find out where Texas is in these ratings. Their losses are all against teams in the S&D 50, but they are a really good team despite all of the challenges they've had.
This week, Florida has Kentucky.
Cakewalk? Question mark?
Don't tell Hugh Freeze that. At number 32, just lurking around the Big 12 title race, Arizona State.
Sam Leavitt ruled out for the rest of the season. They got former 5-star QB Jeff Sims, who has been around the block.
See, this is a team, though. You talk about lurking. They don't control their destiny. They're going to have to hope for a convoluted tiebreaker among two lost conference teams to try and make that title game.
At number 31, Tennessee.
There is an AP poll voter who has Tennessee, 6-3 Tennessee, ranked 15th right now.
Another team that's very questionable. At number 30, Miami. Miami in this week's AP poll is number 18.
They finally took their first trip out of the Sunshine State and took a loss.
At number 29, Illinois beats Rutgers.
I just think 3 losses basically disqualifies you from the playoffs.
Southern Miss. They were on a bye last week.
And like we said earlier with Arkansas State, huge game this week to decide the fate of the Sun Belt West against the Red Wolves.
At number 27, Georgia Tech stumbles.
You know who did not stumble? NC State's running game.
At number 26, a team that the three of us love so much, the Pitt Panthers. They beat Stanford.
Undefeated since putting in a true freshman as quarterback.
We get to number 25 in the S&D 50, and here is Iowa.
Top 25.
Let's
Iowa
go!
Hawkeyes. Their fans have been calling for it for how many weeks now?
Well,
the
here's your credit.
S&D has you. Your credit is here.
At number 24, Vanderbilt with an inexplicable loss to Texas.
Team that won't go away, those Texas Longhorns. I mean, the craziest thing about this is that score is reflective of a comeback for the ages that was all of 3 feet or less maybe from materializing if Vanderbilt had only gotten that onside kick that everyone has seen. So close and yet so far.
At number 23, up 6 spots, we have TCU. TCU currently unranked in the AP poll. This week they have Iowa State.
Not only is TCU unranked, I'm not even sure they got any votes. I mean, that's wild to me. They're a 2-loss team and they don't have a single vote in the AP poll.
At number 22, another team not in the AP poll, James Madison, puts the beat down on Texas State. James Madison is our second highest group of 5 team ranked in the S&D 50 this week. Deserves more credit than they're getting nationally.
Yeah, they're higher than all but one team out of the American. And this is a really good team. The Dukes are not to be messed with.
At number 21, Missouri. They were on a bye in week 10. This week, Missouri has Texas A&M.
I think without Bo Pribula, I just think that they may cap at 6 wins.
At number 20, Washington. They were on a bye in week 10. This week, Washington has Wisconsin. Do we call that another bye?
Maybe.
Maybe.
That final against Oregon could have serious playoff implications if Washington wins its next 3.
At number 19, Oklahoma. Huge win against Tennessee, but even bigger, a bye week in week 11 to let John Mateer continue to get healthy.
We talk about this sometimes that, this is a bias-free, merit-based rating system. This is one of those times where I actually think we've got Oklahoma a little too low. I think the Sooners are really good. And they're one bad game against Texas from being in the top 10 likely.
At number 18, Cincinnati. Cincinnati in the AP poll this week is number 25. Huge loss to Utah. At number 17, USC. They beat Nebraska. I don't think if you're a Trojans fan, you left that game feeling super confident about your offense and the ability to score, but USC's still winning. At number 16, Jacob, does this not bring a smile to your face? North Texas, our highest rated group of 5 team in week 11. They beat Navy. You said it last week. The American Championship is absolutely in play. North Texas 8-1.
And Drew Mestemaker, the man who didn't even start for his high school football team, is 3rd in the country in passing yards and leads the 2nd best scoring offense in the country, averaging 44 points a game. North Texas, baby.
At number 15, the Oregon Ducks presently number 6 in the Week 11 AP poll. They sit here at 15. They can really make some movement upward with a win against Iowa this week. At number 14, Michigan, with a shaky win against Purdue. Michigan at 14 is one of those teams where I say, okay, it feels a little high, but here we are. At number 13, my neighbor recently this week corrected me. It's Louisville. Louisville has a scare against Virginia Tech, but they come out on top.
Yeah, at what point does somebody go from being my dark horse to just straight up being the team?
Well, Virginia at 12, a moment of silence for matching the AP poll. Thank you.
Here's what I'll say about the ACC race. We've gotten all of our ACC teams out now. I don't know enough about ACC tiebreakers, but it feels like that's where it's headed.
At number 11, Texas Tech. Big win against Kansas State. They move up 6 spots. And now we get into our first controversy. The S&D 50 top 10. Oh no, Utah at 10. They are up 10 spots, 1 spot ahead of Texas Tech.
What's happening here is that Utah played Texas Tech like a month ago. And our model does not assume every game happened at the same time.
Texas at number 9. They have the most points from their own result. They get 265 points straight up for beating Vanderbilt. At number 8, Georgia. They beat Florida. They're here at 8, and there's another controversy. Our second one in the top 10. Georgia behind Ole Miss. What is going on?
Well, we'll get to Ole Miss in a second now, but here's what I'll say about Georgia right now. Remember this when we get to Ole Miss. Georgia is 7-1. They have played 8 of their 12 games.
At number 7, Notre Dame.
They actually only got 13 points for beating Boston College. The other 50 they got were for past opponent adjustments of teams they beat winning their games. But man, Notre Dame, those 2 losses, they are really wishing now that Miami is starting to collapse that they could turn the clock back and get that one back.
At number 6, Ole Miss. They beat South Carolina handily. They are at number 6. Georgia is at number 8. Another situation people will question, but we have answers.
Yeah, we have answers. I don't know if people are going to like our answers, but the simplest way of putting it is that Ole Miss is 8-1 and Georgia is 7-1.
At number 5, BYU. This week, the game day game, playing at not the middle of the night. Huge game against Texas Tech.
I think it's a midday kickoff, isn't it?
Sure is.
That's crazy. I think this is a tough road environment for the Cougars. I do not have them winning this game against Texas Tech. I think the Red Raiders are going to win it. I think what matters here is how close BYU can keep it. The closer they can keep it, the better their playoff hopes are, and the better the Big 12's hopes are of getting a second team in.
At number 4, Texas A&M.
This week, Missouri without Bo Pribula, probably not more than a speed bump for the Aggies.
At number 3, gasp, Indiana. Well, everyone else has Indiana at 2. I've heard some arguments for Indiana at 1. Indiana at 3 here in week 11.
You want to know my hot take? I think Indiana is going to be the committee's number 1 when they release their rankings Tuesday night.
Spicy. At number 2, Alabama. This week, they have LSU.
Alabama might be looking ahead to just the playoffs and the SEC title game, and LSU, with nothing left to lose, could surprise them.
After LSU, Alabama hosts Oklahoma. They host Eastern Illinois, and they finish the season at Auburn. Oklahoma could be a look ahead. It's where the LSU game could get tricky. At number 1, Ohio State, still number 1 in the S&D 50 this week. They crush Penn State. This week they have Purdue. Ohio State and Indiana are on a crash course.
Our model loves Ohio State still. Even though they're not getting any credit in the model for the win against Texas because it was so long ago, it just establishes to the eye that this team truly is incredible. There's not very many flaws at all, but Indiana could expose them in that title game. We'll see if one or the other gives a blueprint to the competition for the playoffs.